Welcome to the Two Wealth Show, a show that shares how you can create real wealth for you and your family. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Bogard, and my co-host is Elizabeth Sickles, aka Super E. I am a real estate note investor, specializing in performing residential real estate debt. I find the deals, acquire them for my own portfolio, as well as educate investors while walking them through the process of owning a real estate note. My co-host Super E, a real estate investor, specializing in short-term rentals and the management of them. She connects investors with short-term tenants and manages everything in between. Our show is sponsored by Bright Path Notes and Elizabeth Mayora. You can find out more information by visiting our websites at brightpathnotes.com and elizabethmayora.com.
Justin Bogard. Hello, sir.
What's happening, Super E? How are you?
I am fantastic.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Weather is nice. It's the middle of January as we're recording this. Things are going pretty well. And if you didn't know already, Elizabeth, we have over 1,000 downloads for our podcast now.
Woo! Thank you to everyone who listens to us.
Is that the Arsenio Hall?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a podcast channel that is audio only. For those of you that may not be familiar with this, a podcast in general is just an audio only type of distribution. And Super E and I also record this over our new app called StreamYard. And so we have a video part of it, and you can call it video cast or broadcast, if you will, and that's going to be displayed on our YouTube channels, Bright Path Notes or Elizabeth Mayora. And so we have a bunch of viewership on that, but we kind of track the podcast downloads just because the metrics are easier to see. And so we're excited that it's been less than 12 months and we have 1,000 downloads. So we kind of reached our milestone before our 12-month marker, which is pretty cool. So I'm pumped about it. I know you are too. And I wanted to share that with our audience.
Yes. Thank you again for listening and sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're growing our reach every time. We had a great interview last episode with Jack, and look forward to having several more really, really, really good interviews this season, Super E.
That's right.
So something, we haven't really talked a whole lot about or dived into, Elizabeth, is kind of what is going right now with our economy. I know we're both not economists. We're real estate professionals, and we both have our own niches. But I think something that is the elephant in the room is inflation. I think we both see inflation just continually rise, and it is be there. And so one of the things that I started off when I got in the note business was I talked about, if you're not making really 2.5%, 3% on your money, you're really not making more than inflation. And so you're really making money at that point. So the goal is obviously to make, more than, let's just say 3%, throw a magic number out there so you could actually make a profit, right, from your money working for you. Because right now, if you just leave your money in a bank, Elizabeth, what happens?
Nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
you're losing money. Actually, you are losing money.
It's scary to think about that, right? But it's so true. You're losing money if it's just sitting there not doing anything, working for you. So when I figured out, to change my mind about how I did my finances and understanding money, it's just like, okay, yeah, if you're not working your money 24/7 all the time, you're starting to go backwards a little bit. Mm-hmm. So what are the things that can protect us from inflation?
So it's a really good idea, especially now, to have physical gold and silver. Okay. So what that means is that you have gold coins or you have silver coins. Now, silver is much less expensive. I should have looked, but the spot price for silver has been it's gone up to about $28 an ounce, whereas the gold price is fluctuating around that $1,800 mark, so $1,800 per ounce.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's great about gold and silver is that they are recognized in every country all over the world. And what happened, so prior to 1970, the United States was on the gold standard, which meant every dollar we printed, every bill we printed was backed by gold. But now our currency, President Nixon took us off the gold standard, and now we're backed by debt. And we're going to show you why. So I know Justin has some actual cash, and will you show them and read to them what it says?
This is the only cash that I have. This is all the money I have in the world. Everything else is invested in something. So it says on the front here, it's a Federal Reserve note. Okay. And so what is a note? A note is a promise to pay. And so that's what it says on here. It says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And so we see that this is a promissory note. So you said this isn't backed by gold anymore?
That's correct. It's backed by debt. So, and a lot of people don't realize that the Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the government. It's its own private company. And there's a movie, which actually I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list to watch this week, but it's called Jekyll Island. And it talks all about the Federal Reserve and how it was formed. So I would just like to encourage, again, it's on my list for this week, but I would like to encourage our guests or our listeners to listen to it or to watch it as well, because that just helps you understand what's going on now even more. And some people will say, well, if I'm hungry, I can't eat gold or silver, but what you can do is you can barter with it. And it's a great hedge against inflation. So instead of leaving, and again, I'm not giving any financial advice whatsoever. This is the Two Wealth show. So we just want to share different ways that you can grow your wealth. So instead of leaving cash just sitting in a bank, if you're waiting on deals or if your deals are falling through, it's a great way, again, the physical gold and silver. And there are a lot of different reputable sites that you can buy them. You can also go to your local gold or silver shop. It's a really good idea actually to make friends with those folks, because if we're ever in a serious situation, then they're going to obviously do business with people that they already have a relationship with. So yeah, and we've seen the spot prices for gold and silver go up tremendously, which started last year. And so the predictions from the experts are that the prices are going to continue to increase for the gold and the silver because it's such a great hedge against inflation.
Yeah, I see. For those of you that know Robert Kiyosaki, I do follow him on Twitter and some of his tweets, and he's definitely been preaching for a while about buying gold and silver and even Bitcoin as well. And I believe he's heavily into those assets as well. So it's just about diversification. It's about protecting yourself in all facets of your financial portfolio. Some people have all their stuff in one particular part of their portfolio, like maybe standard investments, like in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things like that. Some people have all real estate. Some people have diversifications of a mixed match of lots of different things. And just be aware, like Elizabeth said, that there are other ways to protect yourselves. And what better than going through, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I'm trying to think of a really exaggerated word here. Apocalyptic time and to have gold and silver in your pocket to barter with. It makes me feel like it's back in the 1200s or something, to where that's how you exchanged stuff. So,
and there's a lady that I follow. Her name is Lynette Zhang.
Okay.
She's with ITM Training, and she is on Robert Kiyosaki's podcast. So she's very highly regarded by Robert Kiyosaki. Lynette Zhang is fantastic. ITM Training, they're a physical gold and silver company, as well as they do other precious metals also. But she breaks everything down. She talks about the Great Reset, which is going on right now, and that's all over the World Economic Forum. So all of this stuff is searchable. And she's very practical about approaches to make sure that you continue to increase your wealth, or at least that you protect your wealth, because that's why we're here. We're not working this hard to give everything away.
That's right. We don't want to go backwards, and we don't want someone else to take it from us. The only people that take it from us is our legacy holders, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And so just to note too, you might see the spot price and the silver. So the spot price of silver or gold, let's just say the spot price of gold is $1,800, but then you go on one of these websites or you go to the shop, and maybe a gold coin with 1 ounce of gold is actually $2,000. So
Wow.
what you have to think about is we have a spot price, and that's what's all over the market. But that coin had to be taken out of the earth. It had to be minted. It had to be shipped. So that doesn't mean if it's $1,800 spot price, that gold coin or whatever you're going to buy that's gold is going to be more than $1,800 for that ounce. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, we bring this up, and guess what show I've been watching pretty a lot since, I guess, since the Christmas break. It's
The
on
gold
Discovery.
mining one.
Yeah, it's on Discovery. It's the Gold Rush. And for whatever reason, it's kind of funny to watch, but at the same time, to me it's addicting because it's just like it's so unbelievable that we can harvest this stuff out of the ground. Not, there's effort into it, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of effort into it because there's big machinery that they can collect the dirt and they put it on this, this ramp, and it kind of separates the dirt from the other minerals, and it's just a really cool process, and it's just amazing. At the end of the week or the month or the year, they weigh their gold and they just, they start pouring these flakes down, and they just like, we've got 2,000 ounces or 4,000 ounces, and they add it up to like, several $1,000,000. Just like, whoa. And it's just, it's in our earth, and it doesn't seem to be exhausted. Like it's not depleted. It's just funny how they keep finding stuff. So,
Which is very good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how we brought this up, and I've been watching the Gold Rush, so I've got gold fever, and I don't even know it. I might get a metal detector and start running around the yard trying to see what I can find.
You never know. And on that point too, something that I've recently gotten very heavily into is prepping or survival skills. So one of the things they call it in the prepping community is a grid down. So if we're ever in a grid down situation, so we don't have electricity, whether it's a natural disaster, we are located in Indiana, so we do get tornadoes. We're also not too far from the San Andreas Fault. So if we were to ever have an earthquake, there's a multitude of things that could happen. And, this is not doom and gloom. This is why we're here. This is why we're the Two Well Show, is to be prepared. So one of the things that they talk about, just to some of your points, Justin, is being able to barter. So for example, let's say you have an ounce of gold. So if you have a gold coin and, maybe you need food for a whole month because you didn't prepare, then you could trade that gold coin for a lot of food. So just so you know, you can live 3 days without water, and you can live 3 weeks without food. So just in preparation, certainly.
Don't recommend you doing that, by the way. We do not recommend you doing that. We're just telling you the data.
That's right. This is so that you can be prepared with water as well as with food. And just something, if you're new to this, if we were ever, and we're in the wintertime here as well. So we could have a freak snowstorm that could take electricity out. These are just smart things to do no matter what. And just a really good tip for you guys, if we were ever, we could have a freak snowstorm this weekend because we never know what the weather is going to do. Yep. So a thing that you could do really quickly if you don't have any water at home or you don't have enough water at home is to fill bathtubs with water. Now you'll want to filter that water, of course, before you drink it. But what they say is that it takes a gallon of water per person per day. So, Justin and Vicky have 4 kids, so that's 6 gallons of water per day, and it goes really fast.
Yeah.
So, again, we want you to be fully prepared. And actually I have a prepping community, so I invited my neighbors over. Yeah, it was really fun. And we went through just the basics of some survival skills and things that they should have. How do you start fires? What are the foods that you should have? How do you filter water? So also just some, defense things as well. But it went so well that I'm having a meeting with them next month as well. So
fantastic.
So you can really learn a lot. It's super, super educational. And even if you don't have, money to buy a lot of the things that, that people suggest you have, it's skill over stuff. Okay, so what skills can you learn? How about sewing, right? Because if we were ever in an extended grid down situation, we wouldn't be able just to go out and buy new clothes. So can you repair, can you cook? Can you start fires? Can you hunt? So it's really cool stuff. And especially to have your kids involved and see what kind of skills that they really like. And then you can help them refine their skills. Knowledge is power.
It is. And ignorance is bliss, right?
Yes. That's right. So again, this is it's not a doomsday. It's just survival for anything, that could happen, natural disaster, anything.
Or hey, you decide to live off grid for a while, for a couple of months, you're going to have to figure out how to make things work. And those are great tips and stuff to need to know. It's just good to know that stuff because you get appreciation for what we have today, right? Running water, we have electricity, we have roof and 4 walls, we have furniture, we have, food delivery service. I mean, we got a lot of amenities now that, we just take advantage of because we haven't had a chance to fend for ourselves, I guess I would say. So.
That's right. And just an opportunity too, to tie this even further back to real estate. I was in Nashville for New Year's. I have some really good friends there. And my buddy asked me, he said, Elizabeth, why aren't you building new houses? So actually what I'm looking at doing is I'm just in the very beginning of stages, but looking at doing developments that have a really cool twist in houses that are built for survival and that have a lot of different options, so to speak, if we're ever in a grid down situation. So there's always opportunity, always, always, always.
That's pretty cool. I never heard of the term grid down until you just mentioned it on the show today. So thanks for educating me on that.
You're welcome. They have some other names for it, but I just like to use the term grid down.
Say no more. Say no more. I read between the lines there.
Yes. And, also, everyone, just so you know, there are some different shows. I don't know if they're on the History Channel or Discovery, but on bunkers. So, and their sales have gone absolutely through the roof. That started last year, of course. So just think about it too. There's always opportunity and I think that market is going to be hot for a really long time. So the other thing that you always need to be looking out for is what's coming next and how can I be ahead of that or how can I capitalize on it?
Okay. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You got to kind of forecast as to what happens, what you think is going to happen, what are you going to be prepared for.
Yes,
these are
absolutely.
Good tips and tricks. So, well, Elizabeth, what else has been going on with you? I know you had some other things that we were talking about offline. I don't know if you want to bring those up.
Sure. So actually today I got a message, 3 houses down from me. The neighbors sold the house the end of last year. And then I haven't met my new neighbors, but they tore the house down and it looks like they're going to be building a monstrosity, which is happening in my neighborhood. So I got a text from my new neighbor today saying, and again, I haven't met her, but she found my work number, saying, hey, this is who we are. And we'd like to offer you X amount of dollars for your house. You can still live in it and just rent from us for the next 3 years and so sometimes it's kind of interesting because I've been toying with, because I do have a lot of equity in my personal house, and I've been toying with the idea of selling it. And the question that you always have to ask yourself is, how could that money work better for me?
Yep.
And always run your numbers. You guys hear me say that a lot. So what's your return on investment and what's your throw off? Because actually this initial number, which, most of the time people are going to give you a lower number just to start as a bargaining point, but it's a nice number, but I would absolutely not sell my house for that. But what I'm thinking is, okay, if I do sell it, then can that money finance my other real estate goals this year? And will I make more on that?
Exactly.
So it's always good whenever somebody's offering you money for something that you weren't necessarily going to sell, but run your numbers. And you can think, we could say all day, well, if I get this and I could get this, and then no, you got to put it. And I'm old fashioned. I put it to pen and paper. I have my formulas in Excel actually, but I always do it on pen and paper just because I can see it and I'm actually doing it myself.
Yeah, it's just something psychological about when it's in your hand and you're writing it down and you're looking at it and you're thinking about it. Yeah, I fully agree. I do a lot of that stuff too. I'll write down numbers or I'll use the whiteboard behind me and I'll write things out and I'll look at it and be like, that doesn't look right. I'm missing something here. And no, that doesn't seem like a good deal. Because yeah, putting in Excel, it's easy. You can have a bunch of formulas and it can do a bunch of magic and run numbers and crunch things and come up with the values. And you're like, okay. But then something about writing it down, I agree. It's just, you see it better, I think.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So definitely there's still tons of opportunity out there. There's a lot of people, because I watch a lot of people. I more lean my philosophy. I agree with Robert Kiyosaki. So I watch a lot of the people. I watch them on YouTube, or listen to their podcasts on the housing market. So, excuse me, I certainly don't know what's going to happen, this year, but I think it's good to get your information from several different gurus. So not gurus, that's probably not the right word, but so sorry. But maybe well-respected people in the industry so that you can make a decision that's right for you.
Yeah, and they have a proven track record of being, no one's perfect, but they're on the right cusp of what's going to happen or what did happen, and they were definitely on the right track, or they were the forefront of a couple different movements of being into real estate at the right time or a different part of real estate. So yeah, I agree. You want to have people that have a proven track record and take that into consideration, right?
Absolutely. So it's always, again, just to wealth. There's a lot of different ways that you can, build your assets. And it's funny because my buddy that I went down for New Year's, he's all self-made. He's done really well. And he said, so Elizabeth, how many properties did you buy last year or this year? Sorry. Cause it was still 2020. And I was like, I sold properties. And he's like, well, how are you going to, well, how are you increasing your wealth if you're not buying properties? And I'm like, oh crap.
That's good. They put you, hold you accountable for stuff. That's good. Well, then the person, I don't know the person you're talking about. You've mentioned them before, and they're, how successful they have been. But it's nice to hear from somebody like that, being like, okay, this person is, leaps and bounds ahead of me, and if they say that, I better take what they say, pretty seriously, and figure out how to implement that, because if that's your goal to be at that level, whatever that level is, makes sense, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So the numbers didn't work out for that house, for your house?
Well, I just got it a few hours ago. Okay. But I'm going to call at least and just, kind of see, number one, I want to see what they're building down the street from me. Yeah. And, just to have that conversation.
Yeah. I got to imagine where you live, the real estate probably goes pretty quickly in most places too. So it wouldn't be hard to get a full price MLS offer for what you guys have. So.
Oh yeah. If I put a for sale sign, it'd be gone same day.
Yeah. I don't ever remember a time like that where it's been such a quick market for real estate. Mm-hmm. Back in, 2010, was a bad time. I don't know if I ever told you this story or not, but it was the first house that I had owned, and I had bought a HUD home. And HUD homes are from I think it was Golden Feather or Golden Leaf. I can't remember the website or whatever. That was the organization that had the home. But I bought it, right, and I put a little bit of very little sweat equity into it. And I had it for probably 4, 5, 6 years, I think. And then 2008 happened, 9, 10, and in 2010 I sold it. And this was the first time I've ever used a realtor by myself, and I realized a lot of things at that point of what to do to prepare your house. And so I did exactly what the guy told me to. And I was able to put a sign in the yard. This is in a rinky-dink starter home neighborhood, and there's probably 250 homes in this neighborhood. Put a sign in the yard, and less than 24 hours, I already had an offer on the house for full price. And I was thinking, like everyone else was telling me, why are you putting your house for sale? Everyone is going through foreclosure, and this is like a bad time. And I'm like, I didn't know any better than this. Like, kind of fumbled into this, and that's kind of what started me into all this, is realizing that, man, I just made money on something I didn't even know you can make money in this. And then, the bug was hooked ever since. I don't know if I told you that story or not, but yeah,
No,
I actually made money in a really terrible market in a neighborhood that you would thought, there's probably 1,000 starter homes in that neighborhood for sale too. And I don't know how mine got picked out of all of them, but that was kind of neat.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. And just kind of to piggyback, on that, obviously, with a lot of, folks were talking about, okay, what are rents going to do? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy in Nashville, so his name's Winston, and Christina's his wife. But he has a lot of doors, and he said, I think rents are going to go up because we still have a shortage of housing. And I just we manage 3 traditional rentals. Mm-hmm. I just put 2 of them up for rent yesterday, and I already have 2 inquiries, and I raised the rent 12% from last year. And I raised I doubled the security deposit. Wow. So there are, and the one person actually wants to see it this week. So there are still people with money out there. You still need to go through the whole vetting process, but it is out there.
So is it? Do you think it's tenants that are going to be there long term? This is a 12-month lease type of renter? Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, 2 of my residents they were great, but they're buying a brand new house, and then my other folks, the one lost her job last year and couldn't get a job around here, so they're moving to North Carolina, where she's from. Okay. But great residents. But this one potential new resident actually wants to do an 18-month lease. Okay. So, and I'm all about that. The longer, the better.
Yeah. It's what's helping your cause for rents to be competitive and being able to raise them a little bit is just, you mentioned earlier about a housing shortage. Mm-hmm. And to some extent that definitely is true. And I also think it's affordability. It's affordable home ownership that I think is also a challenge that is causing our rents to be where they're at and a little bit higher, is because we have more people in the lower price band, let's say south of $125,000, that are just unable to get traditional financing because of banking requirements and because banks really aren't that comfortable lending below a certain point. Whatever that number is, depends on the bank, right? Maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's 80,000, maybe it's 150,000. But that's also a big factor too. So we've talked about this before in episodes past, but seller financing is also a great opportunity for people as well that own the real estate and are trying to sell it. So if they don't find the right tenant situation, they only find like maybe a short-term tenant, and they want an 18-month tenant like yourself. Well, maybe another option is to seller finance as well. So could be an option for somebody, because then they get that affordability. They can actually, they can own the home. But I think the people that you run into more likely are just kind of temporary. They don't seem like they're long-term, super long-term, people that are going to plant their feet in the ground and grow with that home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely. So, so we'll see how it goes. I'll give you all an update on our next show. Hopefully both of the properties are filled.
Fantastic. Elizabeth, we are out of time for today's episode number 3. For those of you listening, don't forget that we also streamcast this. We record the stream of this on our YouTube channel. So on Brightpath Notes YouTube channel and Elizabeth Mayora's YouTube channel. And I don't have any closing thoughts for today. I think we've covered a lot of topics in what seemed like a short amount of time. So it's pretty awesome for episode 3. So I'm just going to sign off and say, hey, I'm Justin Bogard with Brightpath Notes.
And I'm Elizabeth with Elizabeth Mayora.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.
The Two Wealth Show is produced by Justin Bogard and Super E, sponsored by Brightpath Notes and Elizabeth Mayora. Thanks for listening and watching for our show.